Hi, welcome to the Empowered Woman Podcast. This is a place for you to learn from inspiring women how to empower yourself through self-love. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is martaspirk, and I'm your host, triplet mom, woman empowerment coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. On this first solo episode of the year and rebranded show, I talk about the definition of empowered, the criticism I've received for using this name, and how self-love and self-respect have everything to do with feeling confident. Let's get right to it. My goodness, very first episode on the Empowered Woman Podcast, solo episode, I guess I should say. Happy New Year. So excited for all the changes and everything that has been happening. And today, as the official first solo episode of the year and of the rebranded podcast, I do want to address a couple things that have happened, especially when it comes to the name Empowered. And this is something that I kind of dealt with when I first named the school, the Empowered Woman School, when I started it in Portuguese. And I was wondering if I should name the school in Portuguese since I was just doing it all for Brazilians. And I decided to go with a name in English because it turned out the translation of empowered in Portuguese had kind of a negative connotation because of feminist movements and things like that. And it turns out it does have a little bit of a negative connotation in English too, if you choose to see it that way. And this is exactly one of the things that I had to deal with last week. And it's so interesting because when I first launched the podcast called Mom Does It All, I actually got some criticism with that name, saying that I was encouraging women to feel dissatisfied with motherhood and why not Dad Does It All, etc., etc. I mean, you can't have everybody be happy with what you do, right? Can't please everybody, although that is something that I struggle with a lot, and especially because of my personality type of wanting to make sure I'm doing good in everybody's eyes. And slowly but surely, I am snapping out of that and learning that I just have to do me, and everybody needs to do what is best for them and follow their heart, right? And so one of the things that I had to deal with was criticism saying, that the term has become overused, that anyone can be empowered, that anyone is empowered. And especially when you think about, who is an empowered woman, and you automatically think of celebrities and people that are in the public eye because you know more about their lives than of other people. And that we shouldn't be celebrating celebrities because they're already ahead in the game. And I think maybe that is something related to me wanting to interview someone like Autumn Calabrese and even other women that are in the public eye. But here's the thing. We're all women, and we all know that people that are in the public eye that have reached success, and of course, there are certain people that you want to respect and others that you don't, because some people gain fame and money and power one way, and others gain it in a different way, and then that's not for me to decide who is more legit than the next person. But when you see these people's lives, you know that they didn't just, it didn't happen overnight, that there was work involved, that there were lots of no's and rejection involved. And I don't know. I guess what I want to bring with this episode is to say that there's always going to be somebody that's going to be sour and sore about stuff. And this is exactly what I've learned in this path of self-love, is that when you're so self-assured and you're so certain of who you are, there is no need for you to be nasty. There is no need for you to attack other people, because when you attack, that comes from a place of insecurity. Even when you disagree, and this is what we see a lot online, is that people disagree and they instantly have to manifest themselves and attack the other person. You're allowed to disagree. You're entitled to your opinion, but the way you manifest that speaks a lot about the way you feel about yourself and your own insecurities. If you don't feel like you have stood your ground enough in who you are, then you feel the need to tell others that that's your ground and to attack others. And I've never really agreed with that because I'm not a confrontational type. But especially with this work that I have been doing, I have been noticing that when you really love yourself, you don't feel the need to attack out of hate for other people, because you love yourself and ultimately you love other people too. So this is what this episode is going to focus on. It's going to focus on the definition of what an empowered woman is in my eyes, and how self-love comes into play when you're talking about empowerment. Because another criticism that I heard in the past week is that if you are confident, if you're a confident woman, you don't feel the need to say that you're empowered. What is wrong with saying that I am empowered? And again, it's attaching meaning and a weight to the word empowered that I don't see there. And again, it's all up for interpretation, right? Everything is relative, especially when you're talking about meaning and words. This is something that I have worked with my entire life, being a language expert and studying linguistics for years. It's all abstract, right? There isn't necessarily a direct, or I should say it's all random. There isn't necessarily a direct connection between the word table and what a table really is. It's just assigned meaning. So when you're here trying to debate whether I should use the word empowered or not, this goes deeper than just assigning meaning to a word. This has to do with your own personal insecurities and values. And this is another thing that I have been addressing on social media, especially when we talk about New Year's resolutions and people wanting to lose weight, or people, wanting to reach certain goals. I said this over and over again, and especially after interviewing Autumn, who is somebody that works with nutrition and with fitness, is that if you have tried everything under the sun, especially when we're talking about, fitness and nutrition, but in other things that you want to change in your life. If you've tried all kinds of different methodologies and systems and techniques and nothing ever sticks, there's a deeper issue. There's a deeper underlying issue that has to do with your mindset, that has to do with your feelings about yourself. And this is the work that I'm so passionate about. And this is the very reason why I stopped focusing so much on fitness and nutrition which is what I first started with coaching, and decided to go the personal development route, because that's one of the things that I noticed about myself. I was never able to stick with nutrition, or it's hard for me to stick with many things because I get bored so easily. And I have been finding that a lot of it has to do with my need for approval, my need for variety, me always seeking fun. And this is what comes about when you understand your personality. You start understanding why you do the things you do and where that really comes from way back, your childhood, you seeking something in your environment that was lacking, and that's how your personality came to be. And while you can't change your personality type because that was molded when you were little, you can change what you do with it, right? You can act from a healthier space instead of an unhealthy space. And this is what I've been learning about myself. My unhealthy space is putting the weight of my worth in everything that I do and keeping myself busy and seeking for external validation. And my healthy space is doing what feels right for me and just being and just relaxing. And so the whole thing of you shouldn't feel the need to call yourself empowered if you're really confident in who you are makes absolutely no sense in my mind, because being very confident and being empowered go along with each other. But one thing that I have noticed in doing this work and in studying what empowerment means and in empowering other women is that empowerment has everything to do with self-respect, with self-love, and with taking responsibility for your actions, for your feelings, and for where you're at in your life. So check this out. Yes, every woman can be empowered in one way or another because they have overcome different challenges in their lives. But what I truly believe can classify or qualify someone as empowered is when they stop making excuses, is when they stop justifying their mistakes, and they just really take responsibility for their happiness and for the change that they want to see in their lives, or for the change that they want to see in the world by starting the change in their lives. And I feel like what is so hard about this, everything that I do, and dealing with meaning and words and things like that, is that it's deep. And most people are not really willing to go that deep because it's scary, because it takes time, right? Because it's painful, because you're going to have to deal with your past. You're going to have to deal with that past trauma and with things that you haven't visited in a long time. And so it's a lot easier to just, bicker and fight, when in reality, it really isn't easier, because you're just covering up pain. And I am done covering up pain. I want to go to the root of it, which is going to be painful, but it's going to allow me to come out on the other side stronger and find that beautiful rainbow, right? That beautiful rainbow once I'm done with dealing with that part. And I feel like throughout life, we're always going to be dealing with rough storms, but we know that there is a rainbow coming on the other side. And that's really what keeps us going, right? Is knowing that we're overcoming our own limitations to find that silver lining, right? That better place. And so again, I do want to, say that I don't agree with these people that say, don't use the word empowered. Everyone is empowered. Don't talk about celebrities, because why shouldn't we just celebrate our mom and our cousin? And I feel like we should celebrate everybody. It's not a matter of excluding. If I'm admiring somebody that has made it big, quote unquote, and that is in the public eye, that doesn't mean that I don't admire smaller, quote unquote, people. Of course I do. This is what I am doing with all of the work that I do, is helping anybody and everybody with this message. And I honestly feel like even if I'm not super big, there is something that I say, that I do, that can empower people that are big. And this is what I have noticed with even somebody as big as Autumn Calabrese wanting to be on my show. And one of the things that she said before we finished the call after I'd stopped recording was, thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you for encouraging and empowering women. And even, the whole relationship that I've developed with the news anchor here in Denver, somebody that's been working in the news industry for 20 years, to see how she loves my work and says repeatedly, how she's grateful for what I'm doing for other women, and how I am always, a source of positivity on her feed. Like, we're all equals here in a way. I mean, we're not equals because we're so different. You see what I mean? But nobody's better than anybody. But I don't think there's anything wrong with us admiring big figures like Oprah, like Michelle Obama, like whoever. I just feel like whenever you have that animosity and that nagging feeling within you, there's something else in there. There's if you feel the need to argue with somebody past just stating that you disagree, and you just add that extra flair of nastiness, there's something else in there that you need to deal with. And it is your decision to go do the inner work so that you're not lashing out on people for no good reason. And so I want to say I'm very happy with the rebranding and the name that I chose, because I really feel like even if people think that empowered has become cliche, I love that word, because it means taking responsibility for your growth instead of creating limitation and obstacles for yourself and saying, hey, I can't do this because my spouse. I can't do this because my kids. Stop with the excuses and just figure out a way of doing what you really want. And I saw something the other day that says persistence is not knocking repeatedly on the same door until it opens. It's knocking on all doors. And I so resonate with that. And I have always said that persistence is my middle name. I don't have a middle name because that's not common in Brazil. And I just did away with all my last names, because in Brazil we have two last names, your mother's maiden name and your dad's last name. And once I got married, I didn't want to keep or choose between the two. So I just gave up the two and just added my husband's last name. So I don't have a middle name, but I would say persistence is my middle name. And it's exactly because of that. Like, if I can't find what I'm looking for here, I'm going to look elsewhere, and I will never stop. And I feel like this is a great quality, but it also comes with its downfalls. It's hard for me to slow down. It's hard for me to stop. So again, it's all a matter of perspective, but don't sell yourself short by blaming other people for what you don't have. And this is where self-love really comes in, is being able to forgive yourself for when you make mistakes, when you go down that path and you don't find your answer. Hey, it's okay. At least I didn't stop. At least I'm still looking. And turn around. Go somewhere else. And I feel like this is the epitome of self-love, is accepting yourself even when things are not going so well, even when you make a mistake, but knowing that you've learned something, right? There's always a lesson in every single thing that we do. But really, self-love is not only forgiving yourself, but being proud of yourself for taking that chance, and learning not to care so much about what other people think, because that is going to allow you to be the authentic you, the genuine you. And that's what people around you can benefit from, is knowing that that's 100% you. That is not influenced by somebody else, but it's your conscious decision of acting the way you do and being yourself, not living in that autopilot, right? And when you do that, you're really being a role model and acting as an example to other people, so that they will be themselves and not be copying you. And this is what I've loved so much about this work too, is that at no time am I telling you how to live. At no time am I telling you how to behave, because I don't know what that looks like for you. I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like for me. All I can do is encourage you to find your inner voice, to find what works for you. And that's what I've loved so much about, the Enneagram and understanding my personality type, because it really allows me to find my authenticity. And that's what I want to help you find. And that's why I love my tagline, that is, I help women empower themselves through self-love. Because ultimately that is empowerment, is when you see yourself with no masks, right? It's just you, and you are self-assured. That's why you're empowered. I'm not empowering women myself. I am teaching them how to empower themselves. And that looks different, right? That looks very different, because again, it comes from you loving and accepting yourself and respecting yourself too. So again, that's something that I've come to realize, that last year at around this time, I was talking a lot about self-sabotage. And I understood it so well, but it was hard for me to put it into words. And I feel like understanding it better allowed me to put it in clearer words, so that more people are resonating with this message now. That instead of calling it self-sabotage, I want to start calling it self-respect. So instead of, using the negative, let's use the positive. And that's, what I really believe in, is when you are doing things that are disrespecting to yourself, that's when you self-sabotage. And what I have noticed is that when we act ugly towards other people, we're disrespecting ourselves, right? When we act nasty towards ourselves, and when we have that negative self-talk, we are disrespecting ourselves. And for me, I have noticed for my personality type, and I know that that's very prevalent all across the world because of social media too, is not setting boundaries for my rest, right? And just, taking time to be present and be with my family. That's a way that I can be disrespecting myself, is if I don't know how to slow down, I am harming myself. And there's different ways of doing that, and different ways that you can be disrespecting yourself. And again, if you're not eating healthy, you're disrespecting yourself. You're disrespecting your body. If you're not sleeping enough hours, you're disrespecting yourself, right? If you are consuming content, whether it be on social media or being around people that are negative towards you, or that are, we talk a lot about toxic relationships these days, you're disrespecting yourself. So that's another way of you not showing yourself love. And again, it's a way of you feeling less empowered. So I have loved seeing the connection between self-respect, self-love, and empowerment. And I really want to hear from you. Do you resonate with this? Do you feel like this definition really resonates with you. Do you agree with this? Do you have another view of what empowerment means? And I can't wait to share with you the next guests that I already have interviewed and that I'm lining up to interview, because I believe every woman should be celebrated, whether they're famous, whether they're celebrities or not. Everyone should be respected. And again, that's a form of self-respect. If I reach a place where I am able to respect other people, then I have to be able to show that same respect for myself. And another thing that has come into place, and not only because of the change of the podcast, this has been happening over the last year or so, is people that have known me ever since I was little and when I was very active in church, because I was still living in Brazil before I got married, asking me, do you still believe in the Bible? Where does God fall in all of this? If you're so empowered, if you find everything that you need in yourself and this self-love thing, then where is God? You don't need God. You're the all-powerful, almighty person now. And no, this is what I have understood, is that if I am an extension of God, right? If God lives within me, then I really should love myself. I really should see God in myself. And I should understand that me hating on myself is not what God would want me to do, because he loves me, right? And if I really want to show love to others, then it has to start with myself. That's the very first reference. So I'm not excluding God out of this picture at all. If anything, I am adding him more and more and more, because I realize that he wants me to love myself like he loves me. And it starts with me. And this is how I can teach my children and help other women love themselves, is if I love me the way that he loves me. Thanks so much for tuning in today. What did you think? Share your thoughts about empowerment and what an empowered woman means. Connect with me on social media or shoot me an email. All the info is in the show notes. Until next time, bye.